Hello, my fantabulous, wonderful, amazing fans and friends. How are you doing on this fine day? Today, I've decided that I will be doing the analysis video of one character that I think people are sort of lukewarm on. I don't think they're angry, I don't think they're happy, I don't think they're upset about it, and I'm eventually going to explain my feelings about this character. That character is the mighty, the wonderful Man Chong. So you know how the deal goes, you know how this all works out, so we're going to start off. Man Chong, he was born, question mark. Nobody knows exactly when he was born. What we do know is that he did start out as a strategist for Cao Cao. He eventually became the Minister of Runan. From that point, we have our first historical relevance of who Man Chong is, who we all know him. Where do we know him from? He was at the Battle of Fan Castle. He was an advisor to Cao Ren. He advised Cao Ren not to retreat when the flood attack happened. This was a temporary thing, he argued, and Cao Ren also trusted him. He didn't do it. His reasoning behind why this was going to happen was that Guan Yu had sent his vanguard to attack, I believe it was another castle. I can't remember the name of it. It starts with a J. I want to say it's like Jai Xian, but that's not it. It's totally not going to be that one. It's basically, he sent his vanguard to attack, but he wasn't going to move his main forces. Why is he not going to move his main forces? You would think main forces, that's what they do. The reason why he wasn't going to do that is because he felt that he was going to be hit with a pincer attack. So he just said, no, not moving the main forces. I'm moving the vanguard, but I'm going to stay here. The flood attack will probably, cause them to be, weakened. They'll be afraid. They don't want to attack. That's the last part we hear about Man Chong in Fan Castle. And for that matter, we don't hear from him for another 10 years. He does nothing of note. In 228, that's when we start hearing from him again. And he participates in the failed three-prong attack. If you remember, Cao Pi, he goes, hey, I'm going to attack Wu, and I'm going to do these three-prong attacks. We end up eventually run into a character that I do absolutely love that's been added, Xu Sheng. He, we all know how that goes. So, he fails. Man Chong does what he can to help Cao Pi, but it doesn't look great. It doesn't work out. So, around this time, he does make a big suggestion, though, that this is a big note. He suggests that they build castles away from the river. And the reason why is because Wu had a dominance of the river. Their navy was amazing at this point in time. And it made no sense to build the castles near the river or close to the river. Put them further away. This forces Wu's forces to have to get off of their ships and land, and then they'd have to, the time period of landing is not a pretty thing, so they'd have to deal with that issue. And because they'd have to deal with that issue, wham bam, you could hit them and you could hurt them pretty hard, as he will do later, actually. So, 3 years after this failed attempt, so in 231, we have Sun Quan attacking Hefei, and Man Chong would lead the defense. He was tipped off that Sun Quan's forces were coming, and so he called upon reinforcements from the two provinces nearby. I believe the one is Yan. He called upon the Yan for the reinforcements. When he did this, he was able to outnumber all of Wu's forces. He had a huge army compared to what Wu had. So, when he sees this, he thinks, all right, I'm going to win. This is going to be great. Sun Quan looks, he says, oh God, this is too many. Gotta go. He flees. When he does this, Man Chong thinks, well, I could probably dismiss my troops. I can go away. But Xu Xuan pointed out that this was probably a feint. Man Chong listens and says, yeah, you know what? This is pretty peculiar. Why would they come this far up and then flee? I mean, yeah, I got a lot of troops, but I don't know if that's going to be too much. We'll wait a little bit before we release the troops. Well, Xu Xuan was right, and Man Chong gets a lot of credit for this, because he ends up attacking 10 days later, Sun Quan, that is, ends up attacking 10 days later, and basically vindicating Man Chong's choice not to dismiss them. He was able to repel all the troops with ease. A time later, within the same year actually, Wang Ling and him begin to have a huge argument because of Sun Quan. Sun Quan set a trap. He said to Sun Bu, one of his generals, hey, buddy, pretend you're going to defect to Wei. And Wang Ling said, My God, that's brilliant. I'm totally gonna help Sun Bu because he's defecting, guys. It's totally not nonsense. What's that, Sun Bu? You need me to send a bunch of troops to, recover your area? That you have your garrison in this area, and you want us to send troops to? I will do that. I will send my troops. I'm gonna help you out. Man Chong looked at this and said, "No, there is no way in hell I'm doing this. Is clearly a trap." And he refused to send anybody, and he refused to give troops to Wang Ling. Because he said, no. Again, this is a trap. Sun Bu he's lying. He's going to betray us. He's just going to, attack us. Well, Wang Ling didn't take this lying down. And the imperial court ended summoning up Man Chong to the capital because Wang Ling wrote a letter slandering Man Chong and saying that he was too old and feeble. He couldn't figure it out. He wasn't up to par. He wasn't up to snuff. Get rid of this old man. How dare he come into this thinking he knows better than me? I know what I'm doing. He doesn't. So Man Chong says to his subordinates before he leaves, he's like, look, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go to the capital. I'm going to go talk to Cao Ryu. Do me a favor. Do not, under any circumstance, give Wang Ling any troops. Do not give him any people. And so the subordinates, after Man Chong leaves, he goes to the capital, do exactly that. They refuse to give any troops to Wang Ling. Well, Wang Ling, because Man Chong isn't there, decides, I'm just going to give troops. He can only scrounge up a very small amount, and sends them on their way. After he sends them on their way, they get ambushed. And basically, it's a major, major defeat for Wang Ling. But overall, because he didn't have that many troops, and because Man Chong had foreseen this and said, no, we're not doing it, it was not as bad of a defeat. It actually was a very minor defeat for Wei overall. For Wang Ling, it makes him look like an idiot. It makes him look like a fool. So it was just a horrible misstep, a major mistake on his behalf. And while Man Chong is in the capital, and this is all happening, Man Chong's at the capital and he's talking to Cao Ryu. Cao Ryu is like, no, man, I just talked to this guy about issues and things like that. He's not crazy. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. I don't need to, I don't need to pull him off. So he basically says, hey, you know what? He's fully fit and you're going back. You're going back to the province. Go protect it. So this is all well and good. All this is happening. Basically, the war will end and they go back to retreat and figure out what they're going to do. Sun Quan, 2 years later in 233, decides, screw it, raises the banners. He's going to attack Hefei again. So he gets in his navy. He gets there. And when he gets there, he stays in the boats for about 20 days. Because he's sitting there thinking about it. He's like, do I get off the boat? What if there's an ambush? What if I'm gonna get attacked? I don't know. But after 20 days or so of hemming and hawing, he finally just says, fine, I'm gonna land my troops. When he does, there's Man Chong, who, as I said earlier, almost 10 years before, or not 10 years, at this point it's about 5 years. About 5 years beforehand said, yeah, we're going to make sure our castles are not near the river so that, if they do decide to land, we can attack them. 5 years later, yet again, he's vindicated. He knows what he's talking about. He then attacks them. He attacks and he causes them to retreat. He causes them to retreat, to go all the way back onto their ships, and they basically leave. So this goes on, he's holding his own for about a year. And this is when the fourth battle of Hefei begins. Man Chong at this battle suggests that they should reinforce. Zhang Ying is currently defending Hefei. He's holding down the fort. He's holding everything down. And he suggests that they should send, Man Chong says, we need to send reinforcements. They'll defend it. We'll be fine. We'll send a relief. It'll be great. It'll be amazing. Cao Ryu listens to it and he says, no, you know what? Actually, this is a bad idea. He rejects the idea. He instead goes with Liu Shao's plan. Now, Liu Shao's plan was he gets about 5,000 soldiers and 3,000 cavalry, but he gives a lot of drums and a lot of banners with him. And he basically says, we're going to make it look like it's a huge army. And then we'll send the Navy over to make it look like, oh yeah, this is a really big army coming to deal with them. A huge feint, not a feint, but a huge huge trick being played. He says, okay, that's what we're going to do. That's brilliant. Sao Ryu is like, high five Liu Xiao. Well, Man Chong's like, okay, fine, whatever, we'll do what you want. Before this all happens, though, Man Chong does arrive to Hefei. He gathers up some troops and he burns down Wu's siege equipment. And this actually helps lead to Wu inevitably retreating because they hear, oh, Sao Ryu's coming and he's bringing this huge army. I don't know. They're starting to get sick. They're not really able to hold down everything. They're like, okay, we're just gonna leave. Hopefully we'll be fine. This will all work out for us, and so on and so forth. And then on top of this, Man Chong comes in and burns down all their rams and all the other siege equipment that they had, and they're like, okay, yeah, definitely we need to leave before Sao Ryu gets here. And this is pretty much the last time we really hear from Man Chong, because after this point, Man Chong kind of falls out of favor with the imperial courts. There's very simple reasons why. About this time, what you're going to see is Sao Ryu is going to name Sao Fang as the next regent. And he's going to say, well, he wants to make 5 people the advisors. I believe one of them, 2 of them actually, is Sao Shuang and Sima Yi. But his current advisors, the 2 people who are below Sao Ryu, they're saying they don't want all 5 of them. They say, you know what, just make Sao Shuang and Sima Yi the 2 regents, to take over, make sure things are okay and fine. It'll be fine because the 2 advisors felt, well, we can work with those 2 more. About this time, you're going to see about the time right before his death, you end up seeing things like Wang Ling and Sao Shuang having problems with the Sima clan. Sima clan starts doing this, and Man Chong didn't side with the Sima clan. He didn't like the idea. He didn't like the idea of maybe the Sima clan taking over. So he ends up falling out of favor because he didn't agree with Sao Fang becoming the next one. He said, well, maybe we should do somebody else. He didn't agree with these things. So he ends up falling out of favor before he dies. And he may have had sympathy for what Wang Ling will eventually do for rebelling and trying to install Cao Biao on there, but it's not another 10 years before this happens. He dies in 242. The coup d'etat and whatchamacallit end up happening in 249. And the Wang Ling's rebellion ends up happening in 249. So Man Chong basically just kind of fades into the background. So then who is he in the books? In the books, he pretty much does everything he does in the historical context. But he also befriends Zhu Huang and gets him to join up with Cao Cao. That's pretty much his contribution to the book. That's the big thing they like to talk about. Oh, he did that, and he did the historical stuff. I don't think they give him as much credit in the books to the things he did historically, but that's that. Now, where has he been in the game? In the game, he was he's usually at Fawn Castle. I believe he serves sometimes under Zhu Huang because, that association. He also occasionally is in, I believe it's the new Battle of Hefei Castle, which is the end of Wu. So that's where he was. Design-wise, they didn't give him a unique sprite until Musou Blast. In Musou Blast, he has this kind of scholarly look. He's wearing robes and, he's got the pen and he's going to paint and he's going to do all the calligraphy and things like that, which is all well and good. I think the design is nice. He has this kind of Guojia face, which, fine, okay. All strategists apparently have to be young and good looking for some reason. Don't know why. They all have to be J-pop stars, but, whatever. When we get to Dynasty Warriors 9 and his official announcement, the thing I like about this is that there's a transition. It seems he doesn't just have this full, I'm wearing silken robes and I'm running around doing all the battle things. He actually now seems to have armor on, even if it's lighter armor. It shows more to the effect that he's not just a strategist. He's not just a politician. He was on the battlefield. He did do these things. So I think that that's a good point. I think that's a good design. Again, if there's a negative to it, it's this Koei's obsession with when they add a character, they got to make him young looking and he's got to have this, J-pop kind of body. I mean, I'm not saying it's unrealistic. I'm not saying that they couldn't do it. I'm just saying, where are the ugly people in this game? I mean, where are the old people? Why is it that I could go off on that, but he is an example of that. Why is he just this young looking pop star kind of looking thing? So that's his design. That's his historical. And so we have to come to a grade, I would say. Overall, I'm going to give him a B. So why a B? Historically, he's very relevant, but he's also kind of irrelevant at the same time. If we're talking about the context of the Wei story, he's going to show up at Fawn Castle, which, if you've ever played Wei, you know that's the end of Wei. That is the last board of Wei for most of the game. I mean, before, they decided, we'll go to Wushang Plains. I'm talking about from basically 7 onwards. Fawn Castle is just the natural endpoint for Wei. They are on a kind of high point, and then after that, it's kind of where the Sima clan is going to come in and start taking over and start, messing with it. It is nice, though, however, and this is a positive to it, that while he doesn't serve Wei in a good way, he does serve Wu in a good way. Because when you play the end of Wu, and you're fighting against Wei a lot, you have very few of the officers left. But now you'll have Man Chong there, and you'll be able to fight against him, and you'll be able to, here's a named officer. It's not just Zhang Liao and friend. So that's going to be nice. I think that's a good part. I think that's where he adds to the story. I think the overall point, though, and the biggest problem with it, is that he doesn't serve further on. He's relevant. He has his points. There's a reason he's there. With the way 9 is structured, he's going to be great for that interim period between when Sima Yi really kicks into gear and Jin is started, and when Wei is kind of not in the decline. It's just in a stable period where they're not really advancing. They're not really able to pull. They're not really able to do anything. So he's going to be a great interim character for that. I also have a theory on it, but I'll get to that later. So the negatives. Again, like I said, not enough. He's at an awkward place if they ever go back to the old style. He's, for 10 years he doesn't do anything, so he's just going to kind of be like a void. There's a 10-year void where he's just going to be maybe doing things we don't know. He has relevance, but it's just it serves another kingdom. It doesn't really serve his kingdom. So they might say, well, he served a little bit after maybe Chirby, because they're like, well, we got to add him we got to add him beforehand. We don't know when he was born, so we don't know how old he is. So it'll be fine, whatever. Just do it. We'll do it live. His design is nice. I really don't like the young man look. It's kind of hard. It's hard to look at it because it's just like, why are they always so young? And he also seems kind of out of place. He doesn't really seem to be a design that I would look and go, oh, okay, that's Wei. He seems more of like a Jin looking character. Which makes no sense because, again, he's not Jin. He didn't like Sima Yi. So there's that. I'm not saying that he's the worst. I'm not saying he's the best. I say he's above average. He is definitely better than Zhou Kong. He is not as good as Cheng Pu when it comes to this. Are there characters that could do Man Chong's position better? Not particularly. Off the top of my head. I mean, there's 2 or 3 that I could think that probably deserve it a little bit more than Man Chong, but Man Chong, he is a little bit of a fan favorite. I think people like him. I think they like the idea of him. They might not know who he is. They might not know what he's done, but I think people do see him and think, that'd be a good character to add. And as such, I'm not against it. I'm not saying, down with Man Chong. I think he's a good add. I think there are other characters that are better, but maybe for the first of Wei, this is a good choice. So that's my opinion. That's my analysis. That's what I've looked over. That's everything I have seen. I really would like to hear your comments. Do you guys think that Man Chong is good? Do you think he's above average? Do you think he's average? I mean, do you like it? Do you like what he's doing? Do you like where he's going to be in the story? Give me your opinions. I'd love to hear that from down below. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, if you'd like to share these videos, maybe you have a friend who might want to hear it. Maybe they don't know who Man Chong is. And, all right, well, you guys have a great day and have a wonderful week.